You're watching the WNFL show. I'm Ian McKinnon. I'm joined by Patrick Jackson. And we have the returning guest, always welcome here on the WNFL show, all the way from the United States of America. It is JaguarGator9. Colin, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's definitely a little bit weird right now because I live in Arizona, so we don't do daylight savings, but everyone else does. So the clock, it's a little bit odd right now, but we're making it work.
So what's the time with you currently?
So it's funny, like during the season, during the first half of the season, the games start at 10 o'clock Eastern time.
Right.
Or 10 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock Eastern. But now the second half, it starts at 11 o'clock. So it's definitely an adjustment. I definitely panicked a few times, thinking like, "Oh God, I'm late. I'm missing the game." It's like, no, the game doesn't start for another hour. We switched the clocks, so
that's not so bad. We get 1 week, don't we, Patrick? Where we get so usually the games kick off at 6 p.m. for the afternoon games, as you would call it, and then 9 or 9:30 at night for the later window. But we get 1 week, which happened the other week, where it's 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. But that hour for us, it's so much easier because it's just an hour earlier on the Sunday, and the later games are 8 and at 8:25 at night. So we're not staying up till 1:30 in the morning to watch games, which is it's not so bad for us. Not so bad for us. But listen, hey, Colin, you're Jacksonville Jaguars. Your Jacksonville Jaguars. What do you make of this team? Because they've been up and down this season. As we look at their standings at the moment, you're currently sitting at 5-3, second in the division, 1.5 games behind the Colts because they played 9 games at 7-2. You're 5-3. Colts just took an absolute beating by the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, so all of a sudden they're looking mortal again. What do you think of the Jacksonville Jaguars? And then we'll get your thoughts on the AFC South as a whole halfway through the 2025 season.
I'm kind of stunned. I am very, very surprised. This team has exceeded all expectations so far. The first half of the schedule, I thought we were completely screwed. I mean, you had to play the Bengals with Joe Burrow, the Texans, the Niners, the Chiefs, Seahawks, Rams in 6 straight weeks. And to get to the bye week at 4-3 and now be 5-3, I am very, very surprised. And what's nice about this team is that this team does not quit. This team has been very, very resilient. There have been times this year that previous teams would have folded. The Raider game last week, I think we all thought when Brock Bowers scored the touchdown with 2 minutes left in the game, our receivers at the time, because everyone was hurt, were Tim Jones and Austin Trammell. I was like, Here we go again. But they go down the field, tie it up, and then win it in overtime. The Niners game, Niners are driving down the field late, and you think, oh, here we go again. They get the stop. The Chiefs game, insanely resilient by Trevor Lawrence in that one. And the Texans game, you're trailing. Trevor Lawrence drives down the field with about 2 minutes left. And what's weird is that this team is not necessarily playing good football. That's the funny part. We're 5-3, and yet the secondary is not good. Eric Murray's out. Caleb Ransall out for the season. So our starting safeties right now are Andrew Wingard and Antonio Johnson. Neither of them are any good. Pass rush has been hit or miss. Devin White makes such a huge impact, but he hasn't played the last few weeks, so the defense has fallen off. And Trevor Lawrence has been inconsistent. Receivers are dropping a lot of passes. The pre-snap penalties are insane at this point. There's so many illegal shifts, illegal motions. And yet, despite all of that, you're 5-3, not playing the best football, and the schedule gets easier on paper. You still have the Titans twice. You got the Jets, the Texans without CJ Stroud, the Cardinals without Kyler Murray. You've got some opportunities here to potentially go on a run. And I think we saw it against the Raiders, who are not a good team, but we saw it against the Raiders where when the offense is not shooting itself in the foot with drops and pre-snap penalties, they can move the ball down the field. And it's really encouraging to see, because I had no expectations going into the season. I'm just happy it seems like there's a vision. I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the way. I don't expect to make the playoffs because the Chiefs are right now out of it, and I think that's going to change very quickly. But what I think with this team is that we have a coach that takes accountability, that people like playing for. And I know that's like the bottom of the barrel. I know that's like the bare minimum. But considering what we had with Doug Peterson and before, and with Urban Meyer, it's a welcome change. And we have a GM that recognizes the flaws on our team that people want to trade with, that is aggressive when need be. He's made a lot of trades. I like the Jacoby Myers trade a lot that he just made. It feels like there's a vision here. It feels like there's actually reason to be optimistic that that the team is now run by adults. And I don't know if it's going to work out this year, because I didn't think we were going to make the playoffs this year. They've exceeded my expectations so far. I'm around 7-10 this year. I think we're going to go way past that this year, just because we played Titans twice with the Jets, and we're 5-3 right now, which is way better than I thought we'd be. But it just seems like, regardless of what happens the rest of the way, it's been a fun season so far, and there's reason to be optimistic going forward.
I mean, there is. And Patrick, you're a Jags fan yourself, and we watched that game against the Raiders. Absolutely insane. But the Travis Hunter injury is a bit of a kick, isn't it? You're like, things are, as Colin says, things are going better than expected. You're like, hey, look at this, squeezing out a couple of wins, didn't expect. The run-in at the end of the season isn't so bad, but that injury to Travis Hunter, it's not great, is it?
Oh, it's not
we
great.
got to the end of the Chiefs game when I thought, this team might actually be legit. And then we've had 3 games in a row where the offense has looked pretty terrible. I mean, they got it together just about enough to scrape past a really bad Raiders side, but it wasn't convincing. So, yeah, I think the glass half full way to look at it is we're halfway through the season and it's still in the team's own hands to win the division. They're 2 games back from the Colts, but they've got to play the Colts twice. If they win both of those, they can take the tiebreaker off them and tie them up. It's ahead of where I thought they'd be on the curve. And while some of the performances recently, since that Chiefs game, have made me think they probably don't have enough to make a playoff spot, and even if they do, it's probably a waste of a wild card because they're not quite there yet. It tells me that they're on the right track, and I've got more confidence with them now than I have in a good long while that they will take the right steps over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and Colin, looking at the AFC South as a whole, obviously the Colts are in a position no one expected them to be in. Pre-season, nobody thought this team would have like one of the best offenses in the NFL, and 7-2, well, at 7-1 going into the Steelers game, and a lot of folk picked the Colts to win that game against the Steelers. This has obviously changed with the Titans game coming up. CJ Stroud, he's injured. As the Texans, I beg your pardon. CJ Stroud, he's injured, and then you look at the Titans, who are just kind of languishing at the bottom there, and obviously I'm impartial towards the AFC South, although I hate the Titans, personal thing. But Cam Ward has been, empirically worse than what they've had the last couple of years. And you wonder how much of that is the system, how much of that is the coaching, how much of that is Cam Ward himself. We don't know. But give us your overall thoughts on the AFC South as a division, Colin.
So starting with the Colts, I mean, this team is darn good. I am stunned by Indianapolis. I think everyone is. Jonathan Taylor is playing at an insane rate. The offensive line is playing well. I'm not crazy about the Sauce Gardner trade that they just made. I think it's a bit of a gamble, seeing as you give up 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
And he's got the highest contract of any cornerback in football. You've got the 4th lowest cap space in the NFL as things stand. Mm-hmm. And next year, you're going to have to pay Sauce Gardner on that contract. And Daniel Jones is only on a 1-year deal. He's probably going to command $40 to $45 million a year. So there's not going to be a lot of room for improvement for the Colts. So this is about as good as they're going to get, I would assume, going forward. Now, the Colts this year have looked very, very good. Their schedule has not been the best, but they've looked good against the teams they played. 7-2. The 2 losses, 1 to the Rams. They win that game if Mitchell doesn't drop the ball at the goal line. And against the Steelers, they only lost by 7, despite turning it over 6 times. So that was a bit of an anomaly. When you're -5 in the turnover column and you're still in that game at the end, that says a lot about how good you are. Now, granted, the schedule gets a lot tougher for them. They still play the Jaguars twice. They have to play the Texans twice, who have a darn good defense,
Yeah.
the Chiefs, the Seahawks, the Niners. After the bye week against Atlanta, or they play in Germany against Atlanta, then the bye week. The final games, they're playing good teams the rest of the way. So we're going to learn a lot more about this Colts team, but I think they're pretty good. I think they're going to win this division. When it comes to the Texans, that team should be a lot better than what they are. The defense has been balling this year. The defense has been nothing short of magnificent, but offensively, I'm just not sold on them. There's CJ Stroud, he's injured right now, but he's not taking the steps you would like to see. The offense looks unimaginative. The offensive line has been atrocious. The running game, if you want short yardage situation, there might not be a team I trust less to get short yards than the Texans right now. And I don't get the philosophy of the Texans. They've got two very talented rookie wideouts from Iowa State and Higgins and Noel. They're barely playing them. Like, they've been good when they've been on the field. They just don't play them for whatever reason. I'm not crazy about this coaching staff. You got a team at 3-5 that's got the number one defense in football. That should not be possible. It just shouldn't be possible. And then the Titans are a complete mess. The Titans are in hell right now. Their owner is really bad. It's going to be a rough stretch for Tennessee that I don't know how they're getting out of. They had to fire Brian Callahan. That was obvious. They should have fired him last year and start from scratch. But they made some trades at the deadline. At least the Jets, when they sold off Sauce Gardner, Quinn Williams, that's how you do a rebuild. They got a lot of draft picks. The Titans trade away 3 of their better defensive players, and they got 2 pick swaps and an extra, 5th-round pick. I don't know what they're doing. They could have sold off a lot more, accelerated this rebuild, but here they are at 1-8 in a really bad spot, and Cam Ward does not look sharp. Now, granted, coaching staff has not helped him out. The weapons they have on offense are not good, but I would be very interesting to see what happens with this coaching search with the Titans in 2026, because there are a lot of teams where you have the coach come in and he wants his guy at quarterback. Now, there are some teams where that's not going to happen. Obviously, if the Bengals fire Zach Taylor, a new coach is not going to come in and say, I want my guy. I want Joe Burrow. The Giants, when they fire Brian Dable, Jackson Dart's the guy. But if you're the Titans, with how Cam Ward has looked, and you have the number 1 pick in the draft, and there are 2 quarterbacks on paper that are looking very sharp right now, in Ty Simpson out of Alabama and Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. Cam Ward was not exactly a highly touted prospect coming out of college. He was the best quarterback in the draft by a lot of people, but if this was 2024, the year that Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Jay Daniels, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, and Penix came out, he's probably the 7th quarterback taken off the board. He's probably a 2nd-round pick. So it's not like a Jaguar situation where you have the number 1 pick in 22 after having it in 21, and Trevor Lawrence was not great as a rookie, but he showed flashes, but you weren't going to take a quarterback in 22 because he was always going to be the projected number 1 pick no matter what draft he came out in, and there wasn't a great quarterback coming off the board. The best quarterback that year in terms of who came off the board, there was one quarterback the first 2 rounds, and that was Kenny Pickett. So this is a little bit interesting with the Titans because it's already not a great vacancy because you have an owner that doesn't seem to know what she's doing. You've got a really bad roster. There aren't too many good players on this team. If there's a coach that wants to come to Tennessee and he's like, I'm only coming if I can draft my quarterback, it wouldn't shock me if you consider pulling a Josh Rosen and just giving up on the guy after 1 year. I don't know what the Titans are going to do because they're in a mess right now. And their GM openly admitted that he traded away a guy like Brownlee, who's been pretty good with the Jets so far. Traded away a guy like him because he didn't fit the culture because he was kind of too good. So it's a mess right now in Tennessee, and I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon because Amy Adams-Strunk is one of the worst owners in football.
You mentioned Callahan and McCoy and Taylor in there, and one of the recurring themes of this season during our kind of weekly rundowns is we talk about an incident that's happened in the game, and I find myself saying, for more on this incident, you should check out JG9's Dumb Decisions series. So I wanted to ask, do you think those sorts of incidents are coming up more often this year than we have seen in the past?
I mean, the Titans are definitely skimming the numbers. I feel like I'm doing a Titans video every week because of how bad they are. But I definitely think there are some coaches that get it and some that don't. And the ones that don't get it really don't get it. Like, there's fewer coaches appearing on dumb decisions. There are fewer coaches that are making these mistakes, but the ones that do make them week in and week out. Like, there are certain guys that I just have not done videos on or once in a blue moon, and there are some guys where it feels like every other week I'm monitoring their games because they do something crazy. And the Titans are definitely one of them.
And the other thing I wanted to pick, the other thing I wanted to pick your brains on was, so historically, it's been kind of the mantra that rookie tight ends, it's one of the hardest things to transition into the NFL and play. But recently, we've seen guys like Tyler Warren at the Colts, guys like Brock Bowers last year, coming in and transitioning straight away and looking really good. And I was wondering whether you thought that was down to just really good individuals that book the trend, or whether it's becoming easier to make that transition in some way, how the tight ends are being used in college or in the NFL. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think there's definitely more emphasis for tight ends now on catching the ball versus blocking. Like, there are certain tight ends that are good blockers, certain tight ends that you just line up as a wide receiver. And Brock Bowers is definitely one of those that you just give him the ball and just see what happens. But I think there's also some things where those guys were highly touted coming out of college. Tyler Warren, we always knew was going to be a stud. He was phenomenal at Penn State. I was shocked he wasn't the first tight end off the board. I was shocked the Bears took Colson Loveland over Tyler Warren when they were talking about tight ends. And Brock Bowers was projected to be a top 10 pick from the moment he came out of college. And he set the rookie receiving record for most receptions in a season. He was phenomenal as a rookie, and he's in a tier of his own right now. He's the best tight end in football. If he plays like he has over the past 2 seasons, he plays like he has been doing for the next 7 or 8 years, I think he could be the greatest tight end to ever play. He's that dominant. So there are some guys that it does take a while to adjust, but I think Bowers and Warren are kind of the exception to the rule because they were elite players coming out of college, and you knew right away they were going to transition very, very nicely.
Yeah, I mean, you look at someone, I always look at sort of George Kittle as like a benchmark for a great blocking tight end and a great receiving tight end, all wrapped in one. But Bowers is putting up numbers like we've never seen before. I mean, it's almost like the prime, like, you know, that prime 2-3 year stretch with Gronk in New England, where he's just like, he put up, what was it, like 16 touchdowns in 1 year he put up or something. But Brock Bowers has got over 100 odd yards and 2 touchdowns. You're thinking, good grief, how is this guy doing it? And I was talking about this in the podcast, Colin. I was saying the Broncos are playing the Raiders tomorrow night, Thursday night. And the one weakness the Broncos have is that they can't cover tight ends. And now we're going up against Brock Bowers. And I was thinking, this could just be a disaster. He could go for like 300 yards against us. It's just absolutely... Brock Bowers is exceptional. You're absolutely right in that one. Now, Colin, listen, we always love to have you on the podcast. It's always a pleasure to have you here. We've spoken about your Jaguars. We've spoken about the AFC South in general. Is there any team in the league? The easy answer is the Colts. That has been surprised you the most with either how good they've been or how bad they've been, because we've been looking at some of these results week in and week out, and you've got no idea what team's going to turn up. Just this weekend we had the Panthers beating Green Bay at Lambeau Field, and you're thinking, what on earth is happening? And you look back through all the weeks, and there seems to be at least one, if not two, results like that every single week this year. So what teams have sort of surprised you the most, whether in a good way or a bad way?
Well, I think the Panthers have definitely surprised me with their record. I don't think they're that good. I can't figure out Carolina. I don't think they're a good team. But they found a way to win some of these games that I'm just blown away by. But the team that's really surprised me with how good they are, and they're 100% legit, is Seattle. The Seattle Seahawks have shocked me this year. And I think a lot of the skepticism I had was about Sam Darnold. And Darnold obviously was not great with the Jets. Didn't work out in Carolina. Minnesota, he was good to start, but obviously it did not end on a high note with the Lions game and the Rams game in the playoffs. My concern with Darnold was anytime he feels pressure, he just turns into a pumpkin and can't make the throws. And to some extent, that's still there in Seattle, but when he doesn't have pressure on him, he's making every throw. The offensive line is protecting him phenomenally, and when he has time to throw, he has been magnificent. Part of why is also JSN is playing at an elite level. JSN has already got about 1,000 yards receiving.
Yeah.
It's at 948. We only played 8 games. He's not even halfway through the season. He's averaging about 120 yards a game. And he is well on pace to set every record in the book for most receiving yards in a season.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane what he's doing. It is ridiculously good. And the other thing with the Seahawks that's really impressed me is their defense, because they are forcing pressure on just about every play. The game they had against the Jaguars, I think they forced 33 pressures. Trevor had no time to throw. There were 48 dropbacks, and they forced pressures on 2/3 of them. And against the Texans, it was a pretty similar thing. Against the Commanders, Jaden Daniels had no time to throw whatsoever. The Seahawks are forcing a ton of pressure. They're winning games with their defensive line. They're winning games offensively because Darnold's hitting all the throws he's supposed to hit. And JSN's going in the open field. Now you add Rashid Shaheed to the mix, and you now have a receiving unit of JSN, Kupp, Shaheed, and Torrey Horton, who's been playing pretty well this year. They found some really good players in this draft. Elijah Arroyo, Torrey Horton. You add him, I mean, this is a darn good offense. And the NFC West is stacked. I mean, the Niners are always good. The Rams, they're still my pick to make the Super Bowl. And the Cardinals, their 5 losses have been very, very bizarre. They've all come down to the wire. This is a very stacked division, but the Seahawks look awfully, awfully good, and I did not see that coming. I've been very surprised by how well Sam Darnold's played.
Yeah, I think we've all been surprised with Patrick. I think we spoke about that earlier. The way Sam Darnold's been playing has just been incredible. We saw what he did last year in Minnesota. He's taken it up a notch in Seattle, but that receiving room's doing him a couple of favours too, isn't it?
Yeah, I was expecting him to go into a situation where he had worse protection, and we saw him turn back down towards the form we've seen for the majority of his career, and the good stuff at the Vikings to be a bit of a blip. It hasn't been that. They've recruited well at offensive line, and as you say, the receiving core is doing wonders for him. We've seen production out of AJ Barner that I never expected to see. I was kind of surprised to see them adding Shaheed into something that was already working so well, given what they've already got there. But, you know, you can never have too many weapons, I guess.
I guess you can't. Well, listen, Colin, thanks you very much for coming by. We do appreciate it. We know you're a busy man, of course, but do you have a random stat for us?
I do. This is a weird one. This is looking ahead to the NFL draft, because I think a lot of teams at this point are looking ahead to April. Mm-hmm. Looking ahead, and obviously the Jets, 3 first-round picks in 27, 2 and 26. They're doing a whole rebuild over there. And there are some times where it works out very well. And then there are some where it does not. And I want to introduce you guys to what is hands down, no competition, the worst draft class in NFL history. The worst one of all time. It is impossible to do worse than this. 1966, the Atlanta Falcons go 3-11. 1967, the NFL draft hits. During that draft, it was 17 rounds back then. They had a fair amount of picks. They had 18 picks. I'm going to list you all the guys and tell you what they did. So the first pick they had was Leo Carroll, a defensive end. He played 0 games with the Falcons. That was their first pick. Their second pick was a running back by the name of Jimmy Jordan. He played 0 games with the Falcons. You're going to notice a trend with this very quickly. Their third pick was a tight end named Bill Delaney. He played no games in the NFL. Their fourth pick was a defensive tackle named Randy Matson. Played no games in the NFL. Their fifth pick was a running back named Eugene Snipes. Played 0 games in the NFL. Their sixth pick was Martine Bircher, a defensive back. Played 0 games in the NFL. Their seventh pick was a quarterback, Cody Kohlhauer. Played 0 games in the NFL. Their eighth pick was a wide receiver, Bobby Moden. He did play in the NFL, but 0 games with the Falcons. He played with the Denver Broncos for 3 games. So 0 games with the Falcons. Ninth pick an offensive lineman, Dick Shafroth. 0 games in the NFL. Their 10th pick, linebacker John Walker. 0 games in the NFL. 11th pick, linebacker Bill Gentry. 0 games in the NFL. 12th pick, kicker Sandor Sabo. 0 games in the NFL. 13th pick, fullback Tom Bryan. 0 games in the NFL. 14th pick, fullback Al Nicholas. 0 games in the NFL. 15th pick, defensive back Larry Chester. 0 games in the NFL. And for their last pick in the final round, they drafted a quarterback, Bill Buckner. 0 games in the NFL. So the Falcons had 16 picks in the NFL draft in 1967 who played a combined 0 games with the Atlanta Falcons. That has to be the worst draft class of all time.
I don't remember what the 1967 Falcons were like, but I'm assuming
they won one game.
I'm assuming I'm assuming they had a team full of incredible veterans, and these young guys just couldn't get a game. With the one game they won.
Yeah, they won 1 game.
Yeah,
because they were an expansion team the year before, so it was still a pretty young team, and yet they got literally nothing out of the draft class. Not even one single game.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
That's absolutely shocking.
I should also note with that, they had the first pick in the draft. They gave it up to the Baltimore Colts, and the Colts drafted Bubba Smith, who became a very good player.
Oh, for goodness sakes, Bubba Smith.
Yeah, so it was just a calamity of a draft.
Oh, my word. Officer Hightower himself. My goodness. That's a wonderful random stat, Colin. Do appreciate that. Really, really do appreciate that. Well, listen, as I say, we know you're busy. We're not going to keep you. But we would like to get you back on towards the end of the season.
Absolutely.
If you have the time.
I do, yeah.
Try and get your post-season predictions, which would be very nice. We'll be looking forward to that. But once again, a huge thanks to JaguarGator9. Colin, thank you very much for joining us.
Appreciate it as always. I would love to be back in a couple months, so let's do it.
We will see you then. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.